My name is Wendy Wall. I'm the Senior Vice President of Sustainability here at Theory, and I'm thrilled beyond belief to have you all here for our Good Talk. This is our first Good Talk that we're doing in partnership with the Council of Fashion Designers of America and supported by United Nations Fashion and Lifestyle Network. We're creating a forum, basically a space or a platform where we can all come together and talk about all the sustainability issues we have, but more importantly, to discuss education, to discuss collaboration, to discuss innovation and inspiration, so that we can all take these ideas or create them together and actually move forward to solve some problems. So that's really what today is about. It's about starting the conversation, and this is the first in a series of talks that we're going to have. One brand can't do it by itself, even though we're all out there working on it. And we really do need to come together and kind of talk and see what we can be doing to help make the world a better place and make the business better and our industry better. I'm joined today by Tani Goodman, who's the Vogue Sustainability Editor, and she's graciously agreed to moderate our platform, our panel today. My pleasure. Lorraine Pepper, who is a co-founder and a former CEO of Textile Exchange, is a senior advisor of Fashion Makes Change and the chairman of the board of Cotton Connect. And my long-term partners, Ricardo and Francesco Marini, who are here to talk about, what the issues are regarding sustainability from a Mills perspective. We don't normally hear about things from a Mills perspective, but I think it's really important for us to do so. And they've been a partner with us, quite frankly, I've been here for 23 years, and it's longer than that. So. We're very grateful to Stephen Kolb and to Sasha Brown and to Sarah Kozlowski and to Lee King from the Council of Fashion Designers of America, and from Carrie Brannigan and Megan McCoster. I hope I did it right this time. It's close enough. From the United Nations Fashion and Lifestyle Network. They are supporting us throughout this endeavor. Both of the organizations are dedicated to fostering conversation and inclusiveness, transparency, innovation, and really helping to get key stakeholders together so that we can, in fact, create urgent action in the sustainability world. So Carrie's not able to be with us today, but we have a welcome video that I'd like to share with you all now, so please enjoy.
Hello, esteemed guests, industry pioneers, and fellow advocates. It is an honor to welcome you to Theory for Good presents Good Talks, an event that marks not just the beginning of a conversation, but the continuation of a journey towards tangible, scalable, sustainable solutions within the fashion industry. Today's discussion, co-hosted by the CFDA and the United Nations Fashion and Lifestyle Network, is a testament to what we can achieve when we come together, united by a common purpose to reimagine and reshape the future of fashion. The discussion will look at environmental stewardship, ethical manufacturing processes, and how innovation can create solutions with zero-waste approaches. We will be reminded of the beauty of nature's offerings and how we can work in harmony with our environment to create products that do not merely take from the earth, but give back to it, preserving its resources for future generations. This convening is about more than just discussion. It is about action. It is about how a community of designers, manufacturers, retailers, and citizens can collaborate to incorporate these sustainable practices into our work and our lives. You are gathered here to inspire and be inspired, to share knowledge and to forge partnerships that will continue to propel the fashion industry on a journey that can be guided by the principles of innovation, collaboration, and responsibility. As many of you know in your own work, that every small change we make in the way we produce, consume, and think about fashion can have a profound impact on our planet and its inhabitants. I'd like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Theory for being a thought partner of the United Nations Fashion and Lifestyle Network, supporting the work that drives us closer to our goals of advocating for transparent, inclusive, and transformative engagement among global stakeholders, and enabling collaboration amongst industries and the UN system to accelerate innovation, knowledge sharing, and driving a positive impact on the Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you.
Yeah, it's wonderful, right? I mean, it's such an inspiring video that she just, and all of her words are so fantastic, and I'm so grateful to Carrie and the United Nations Fashion Lifestyle Network, and also the CFDA for working with us to put this together. So I think there's a lot for us to talk about. I know we're not going to get through everything today. A lot of people on this panel have a lot to say, and we'll see exactly how the conversation goes. But I'd like to introduce you all to Tani Goodman, who I'm so thrilled that she's with us, and she's now going to moderate our panel. Tani.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Wendy. I just would like to say that I am really thrilled to be here, and I have Wendy to thank for my cooperation here, because Wendy and I met very recently and I think hit it off, if I may say.
Yes, exactly.
And
we did.
and that's why I'm here. So I just wanted to give some brief bios. Yours is not brief at all. But for Wendy, she has worked with Theory for 22 years. And prior to her current role, Wendy was the Senior Vice President of Merchandising and Development for Theory and Helmut Lang. Wendy was also responsible for developing and implementing the company's initial product lifecycle management program. I mean, when I say all these words, I say them slower because they start to run together and you don't even know what they mean after a while. Her experience at Theory spans many departments ranging from merchandising, development, design operations, computer implementation, and raw material procurement to the current innovation and sustainability team. Prior to Theory, Wendy ran private label divisions for Magashoni Apparel Group. Did I say that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Tahari and Scene Design. She is based in New York City, of course. We all are. Well, not really. Wendy is an accomplished fine artist to boot, and she focuses on figurative art.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. We want to see. You want to see that
show and tell.
Okay. Okay, Lorraine. Lorraine Pepper is the co-founder of Textile Exchange and senior advisor of Fashion Makes Change. For more than 30 years, Lorraine has been at the forefront of driving meaningful change towards preferred, organic, and regenerative fibers. She's been engaged in catalyzing action and is a long life advocate for more sustainability practices that deliver real beneficial impact, I have to slow down on these words, in the apparel and textile industry. She grew up on a rain-fed cotton farm in Texas, in West Texas, which has given her a unique perspective and core understanding of the importance of ensuring farmer voices, very important, and needs are fairly represented in the transformative journey to a responsible and sustainable textile industry. Emphasis on farmers. Lorraine is a co-founder of Textile Exchange and has served the organization over the past 21 years, initially serving as the chairman of the board in 2002, shifting to managing director in 2005, and chief executive officer in 2020, and serving as senior advisor beginning in 2024. Thank goodness.
Yes.
Her unique perspective helped her lead Textile Exchange, along with its pioneering members, to create preferred fiber and material strategies, strengthening integrity in the marketplace through the adoption of standards and promoting deeper engagement with the supply network. Beginning in 2024, this year, Lorraine is continuing her life's work as catalyst for the industry by engaging in a few key programs coming up. Senior Advisor to Fashion Makes Change to support and scale women's empowerment and regenerative agriculture programs. Women's. Vice Chair for the Regenerative Organic Alliance, ROC, and Chair of Cotton Connect Board of Directors. I mean, I'm sorry to go on so long, but it's absolutely necessary. It's absolutely vital. Lorraine served on the Administrative Council for Southern Sustainable Agricultural Research and Education, elected to the Organic Trade Association's Fiber Council Steering Committee. She joined the Organic Trade Association's Board of Directors in 1998, where she supported the creation of organic fiber processing standards and chain of custody for the industry, continuing to serve and support advocacy for family farms in the U.S. She more recently served as chair for RAFI, the Rural Advancement Foundation International, from 2015 to 2016. I'm almost finished. Lorraine has been serving on the Cotton Connect Board of Directors since 2016 and the Regenerative Organic Alliance since 2018. I mean, have you been busy or what? I mean,
when it's your passion, it's just a part of life.
I'm not finished. Prior to Textile Exchange, Lorraine and her late husband Terry were founding members of the Texas Organic Cotton Marketing Cooperative, TOCMC, in 1993. Together, they built and demonstrated a sustainable business model for farmers, creating strategic partnerships, very big word, with various manufacturers and value-added programs, including Cotton Plus, which is organic fabric, and Organic Essentials, which are organic personal care products. Very important, and I'm going to just say a little something about bamboo toilet paper at the end. Pepper holds a Bachelor of Science in Education from Abilene Christian University and a Master of Science in Organizational Leadership from Lubbock Christian University. The end.
Wow.
So I just have to say what an enormous pleasure and honor it is to meet you.
Well, it's such a delight to be here and among kindred spirits. It's just really lovely.
Okay, Ricardo Marini is the second generation of Marini Industry, the textile mill in Prato, founded in 1945. He is a pioneer in fabric creation because of the insight to transform firm linen into stretch fabric in the early 1990s. Since then, he expanded the company into the global market of contemporary fashion. In the past, he has also led the Association of Entrepreneurs in Product. Francesco is the Innovation and Product Manager at Marini Industries. He is the third generation of Marini Industries, and he began innovating processes in the textile mill over a decade ago, which seems a little odd to me because you look awfully In recent years, he has also served as president of the Textile Museum in Prato. So you can definitely look up more on these incredible characters. I mean, after having said all of that, it's like, where do you begin? I mean, well, I'll show you where you begin. I'm going to just start with you.
Oh, okay.
Why, 21 years ago, did you start the Textile Exchange?
That's a good question. Yeah. It seems the thing to do at the moment. It's so interesting on the journey piece, and some of what Wendy said earlier is that we knew we couldn't do it alone. So while we were farming organically and working with neighbors and helping influence best practices, we can't grow it on a maybe. We needed strong market partners. And that was before farmers really started talking to brands, or brands started really talking to farmers. And so it's that first premise, some of the DNA of Textile Exchange is that together we make a difference. It's not just that Theory's doing good and other brands that are in the room are not just doing good and the mills are in the room. it's not just collective action, which are islands of good. It really takes that connected strategy, collective, connected strategy to really implement a force for change. And so it was that recognition, and we started with about 14 other companies and mills and manufacturers, a few other farmers, and talking in the late 1990s, so that by the time we got to 2002, we had about 50 brands and retailers and industry members, but it truly was the first kind of organization that brought the full supply network together, all the way from farmers and suppliers, and seed growers and different things, all the way through dye houses and spinning and knitting and weaving and the brands and the retailers. It truly brought the entire supply network together to drive that collective connected action to identify those barriers to growth. And the bottom line of it is that we felt like the fibers and materials that we wear could be the tool for driving that change. Because there were real issues on the ground with conventional chemically intensive cotton and issues around land use and overgrazing when it came to the animal fibers. There were real issues on the amount of synthetic fertilizers and things that were being utilized across all the land-based fibers. There were issues on animal welfare. So it is, how do you start using those fibers and materials? It's not just the material itself, it's about how it's grown, how it's dyed, how the people are treated. And so it truly is about not just looking at an outfit that you feel good in and the fit's right and the drape's right and the color's right and all that good stuff, but it's about where that came from. And so it truly is about the fibers and materials you wear and love and sleep and play in impact people's lives, sometimes life or death. Like if people are using toxic and persistent chemicals, it can create cancers and other things. And so I think the joy of this, not only are we changing the world and the dynamics, but it's like wearing smart wool socks. You know, you wear your values. It's not just about doing good things, but you have the choice to wear like Eileen Fisher cotton and, you know, Theory silk. So it's about really embodying and having the joy that your decisions and your choices are positively impacting people's lives. So it goes all the way back to together we make that difference, together we make that impact, and we encourage each other and we walk it together.
I mean, I think that, you know, one of the things that I've always been impressed with that people don't really kind of grasp is the fact of wearing your values. Not only are you wearing your values, but you're announcing your values. Whatever you put on in the morning is a message to whoever you see as to who you actually are.
Totally agree.
And the other thing is that in that, you have the vote. You can vote
It's your choice.
for what you want to put on and display that, and it's a value, and it's, I mean, but the other thing is the earth, is that it all comes back to the earth. And I think when all of us are discussing sustainability and all of its complicated, you know, so much complication to really dissect it, the bottom line is the earth.
It is.
I just want to jump in because I think it's so important, everything that you're saying. You know, one thing that I've learned over the last couple years is how important it is for us to get back to the source, the farm. You know, how do the growers or the farmers really manage the land? What are they doing to make sure that the land is healthy and keeping it healthy? What changes are they making so that they can either sequester more carbon or make sure that the animals are well taken care of? And it's not something that I've been in fashion for quite a long time, as you heard. I mean, a long time, and I never thought about this when I started. I never thought about, you know, where do my clothes really come from? And now, not only do I think about it, I'm passionate about the fact that we really do need to know, you know, who else aside from the design team and the manufacturing and the factory, but who are the mills, who are the spinners, who are the farmers? And the more people I meet, the more they want their stories told, which is really one reason why we're here talking about this too. They've said to me, I've had farmers say to me, tell my story. I want people to know how passionate we are and how scientific this process is. We're not just dumb farmers. Literally, that's what he said to me.
Sure. I'm just going to go right back into the fibers, the sustainable fibers, because we recognize linen, we recognize wool, we recognize cotton. But linen has a special attributes in terms of sustainability. Could you tell me why linen is so special in that aspect?
Linen is a love story, because when you touch a fabric made with linen yarn, you can feel the regularity, you can feel the thick and thin, you can feel the flame. Something that has a life. And when you wash a garment and you put on top again, it changes a little bit, because it grew with you. So it's something different, it's something unique compared to the other fiber. But has a lot of sustainability aspects, because from the fiber, from the plant, we cannot do any waste, because when we extract the fiber, after that we can use the seeds, we can use the flowers, we can use the rest of the plants, because we can compost and do something for fertilizing. So this is very important, because it's a biodegradable fiber, and it doesn't need any water irrigation, because the weather is enough. Because when the plants during the retting was down in the fields, it does its life, and with the bacteria, with the insects, you can favorite the possibility to extract the fiber right after the next process. So all these aspects give a lot of sustainability action to this fiber compared to the other one. Everything is natural. You don't need a lot of pesticide, and everybody are working to eliminate totally, because with the organic process they want to go ahead and transport all these studies they did, the farmers on organic, to what will be the normal linen. So in the future we expect to increase the sustainability again, and the people, they dress linen, they can understand the unique of the fiber, and especially when it's warm, like today, the freshness and the quick dry attitude of the fiber is something amazing. So it has a lot of performance too.
Speaking of performance, there is now the stretch that has been added to your linen. So could you talk to me about how that came about and what it is, in fact?
Actually, we live in a place, in a cluster, that was born treating wool, recycled wool mostly. And this business has been going through centuries in our cluster, in our city, in the surrounding places where we live. At a certain point, the wool business was not covering all the 12 months of the year, because it's our business is like a yo-yo, it's up and down. I mean, it doesn't have a stable business throughout the year. So I thought we have to try to find something that put together with the wool that we are doing could give us the possibility to cover also the dead months that we had at that point. And cotton was very effective, it was easy. So I thought about linen, because it's a fiber, as Francesco said before, that it really, when you wear it, you feel it together with it. It goes together with the warmness or the coldness of the body. So when it goes together with it, it's very comfortable. So I thought to it, and we started to make the linen. We are going backwards, around 90s, more or less. We start with the linen, and for the international markets where we deal with, and it was, very well accepted from our customers. So it gives you the possibility to keep going in that direction. That's what I did. And I remember once I was in a day of ski. The ski wear was a stretch pair of pants that we use, of course, to ski, because you have to be up and down with your body and be comfortable. So I thought, why we don't transfer the same performances that we have the ski wear on the streetwear. And so when we came back, we started with our technician, all the people involved in our business, and we start to develop something like that. You can imagine how many trials we have done, tons of possibilities before achieving a good result. And since then, when we started to put together linen with the stretch, we moved a huge step ahead. So that's the reason when you have the comfort of the product and you have the customers that follow you on this direction, there is nothing else that you can ask for. So we keep going, and then we are doing this stretch linen, of course, not the way it has been done 30 years ago. There are performances that has been added to the fabric arriving today, because I think that the people, they love the linen like we do. If they have also the possibility to be more comfortable in the linen garments, it's very welcome.
So performance is what was really added to it. And what was the addition? Was it elastane? What did you develop that made it stretch? Or is that too complicated? Maybe it's too much of a...
We had viscose and lycra. At the beginning, we started also with some nylon. We tried several times. But with the viscose, also there, we had to add the possibility to mix it with another sustainable fiber. So our cycle stretch is made from 100% of pre-consumer production from Britain. So everything is made from waste. And also from the viscose, we have a RCS recycled viscose made from cotton linters. So we try to add all the elements in a sustainable way. So not all, no.
I think this is a very important piece of information, because when people think of innovation and taking a natural fiber and then, making it perform differently, who knows what that performance element is, and the fact that it is, regenerative, all of the things that you saw to make it that, no waste. That's a very important element to what we're doing in this venue. I mean, kudos.
Yeah, thinking about the fact that the plan itself is no waste, basically because you're using every section of it, including the dust that's created to go back to fertilizer, right? Yeah, and coupled with the fact that you're using cotton linters and then pre-consumer waste for the elastane.
And we try to increase every time, because we started with the elastane was 50% from recycled waste, and now we are 100%. So we have to put the target higher and higher to achieve better results. That's the challenge every time to improve.
When you start the sustainability journey, you never go back. Because this is something that will be moved on from every single stage of the business. Do it alive. I remember that at the beginning, the viscose viscose is cellulosic fibers that comes from wood. So we went to try the way, and we do the same thing from cotton linters. That means we don't cut the trees to make the fabric. Elastane is done from a big part of it from recycled materials. So giving the sustainability to a product is a daily challenge, because there is always something that has to be done, better perform, better make it happen with this in a system that sometimes it's a little bit difficult, because what we want to do and what we try to do is speaking with our partners, and speaking also to the people that are not directly involved, try to give as many information as possible, because the world has to be gone. The world has to go in a proper way. This means that when we do something, we have to think that what we do has to be a very long life, cannot be discarded or thrown away, can be reused if there is a possibility to reuse. And what is not possible to reuse in terms of garment has to go to be reused in another way. So we don't want to waste anything. We want to try to use as much as we can of, in terms of giving this product a second life or a third life, and whatever is not possible to do, to use as a garment production, we want to use for something else, but not for, say, insulation for woods or I don't know, furniture or hangers or whatever.
I mean, what you said is the operative word is waste, and it is really what the apparel industry, the whole thing is really accused of. One of the most things that they're accused of is the waste that is accumulated, and how do we deal with that? You're obviously dealing with that. Ray, I want to come back to you when you said, you know, we're talking about the clothes that we put on our body, what they, you know, what they mean. But then if you stretch it right back to where you started, which is the farm, there's another aspect of it. So tell me about how you see that stretch from the farm and representing the farmers to what we're actually putting on our bodies.
So when you think about the natural fibers, especially they're land-based, it's so interesting because someone's growing that, you're getting up in the spring, you're waiting for the spring rains, you're planting, you know, whether that's, and the lambs are born this time of year, there's a circle of life. And so it is about respecting and being a steward. As a farmer, you're a steward of that circle of life. It's about what you're putting in that soil, how you're treating it, living in harmony with nature. And so it is, every one of us has a passion for what we're doing. But it's so interesting to think about what's happening at the farm gate level, because it truly is about really supporting life in the soil, greater biodiversity. We're creating safe habitats. There's quail, there's lizards, there's big-eyed bugs, there's ladybugs. You know, it is about biodiversity. It's about promoting life and supporting life. And we happen to be growing a cotton plant or a flax plant, or we have, you know, a herd of lambs. And so it is about that whole farming piece. I think so many farmers, they farm because they have a passion for land and they have that stewardship mindset. What becomes difficult is then all of a sudden you have to be faced with a market. That a market is going to, you know, I've got to sell my cotton, I've got to sell my this is the market price, this is where it goes. But does that really support life on the farm and life on the, you know, life for the community and life where we're at? So I think one of the biggest things and the biggest challenges we have as an industry is we've got to break away from a price paradigm into a value paradigm. Every preferred fiber that's out there is going to cost more than the chemically intensive solution that's out there. It's those solutions that have created the poverty and the problems and the pollution. So it's like, why would we want to stay in that same paradigm? So it's an opportunity to have a different business model. It's an opportunity to tie that value back so that farmer can plant those cover crops. So that farmer can, you know, choose to use biodiversity and insectry and biobeneficial insects rather than spraying a cheaper chemical. And so it really is about supporting life in the soil, life in the farms, life in our planet, life in our water. And so that value paradigm piece, I think, is where we must go. Really looking at our fibers and materials and our clothing in a different way. That, as a farmer, I'm putting my heart and soul into this. And it's a way of life, and it's respect for the land. Unfortunately, so many of our farmers have been taught to farm with chemically intensive solutions. So there's a real need for educating farmers on best practices and opportunities. But I can't grow it on a maybe.
Right.
I can only grow it when I have a strong market connection that's going to, you know, pay value for, you know, product that we're
Well, you're sort of come back to the collective and the connected.
Action.
And
strategy.
I think that, yeah, and strategy. And that throws me back to you, Wendy, because you're at the other end of all of this that we're talking about. So how do you connect with the supply chain and having to produce clothes that you have to sell and you have to, you know, there's a whole nother aspect.
I'm so
that you
glad
have
you
to-
came to me next, because I was going to jump in anyway. Can't be quiet about this conversation, because I think it's so important for, you know, brands to understand who really is in the supply chain and to ask questions. And, you know, I've learned over the last couple of years that I thought I knew a lot of things, only to find out that I really didn't. And the more questions I ask, the more I'll get, you know, that doesn't work that way, or, you know, I can't get to that, or it's not possible, which actually opens up an opportunity for me, because then I think, oh, opportunity for us to have a stronger relationship, for me to know you better, for you to know me better, and for us to literally solve a problem together. And I find that the more I ask the questions, the more I develop the stronger relationship, we end up getting back to where we wanted to go. And I think the more we learn about the farmers, the spinners, the mills, the more we can make decisions in how we want to proceed from a values-driven perspective and from a cost-driven perspective. We can figure it out. Is it challenging? Yes. Can we figure it out? Anything's possible, I believe. And so I really think it's so important for us to really understand and really learn the supply chain. The Marinis are a really good example of this, because the way the industry has been set up, most natural fibers you'll buy from an auction and you don't really know who's in the supply chain. And they've been able to work with us over the last year and get back to farms in Normandy for where some of our fibers coming from for a certain time period and for certain POs. It's like, because of the relationship, the question, the brokers we're using and their relationship with the people in their supply chain, et cetera. So it's just the more you ask, the stronger the relationships become. And then you realize that there's, it's all of us together. There are people, as we make a decision on what we're buying, we're affecting that farm, that farmer, that spinner, that broker, that mill, that factory, and that fashion brand. So it's all of us. I love what you're talking about. It's like we're really making people's lives better. It's not just we take care of, you've heard, I'm sure, the statement, we take care of the earth will take care of us. Well, it's really what this is. So I think it's really critically important to, I'm such a big proponent of asking questions and developing relationships so that we can all together make this thing happen.
I mean, the earth is forgiving.
That's
the whole
right.
the whole thing. It's out there forgiving, and if we just listen to it, which it sounds like a cliche, but it's the truth.
Yeah, it is.
And kudos to you and to everyone, because you've honored that. We all have to really honor that. I think it's a really important thing to make sure that you realize that what you put on your body is a vote, it's an endorsement, and it's a message. So, go for it. So the last question is, the question that we put together, Wendy, was, what do we need to do as an industry tomorrow to impact change? And we corrected that to say, what do we need to do, not tomorrow, but today, to impact change? And, I'm just going to throw out to everybody. Start with you.
I think so much of it has to do with our mindset. And so if you haven't already made that mindset shift to thinking about not just the price or the color or whatever the case may be, that you're really looking at the values, your personal values, what we need to do as global citizens, and that literally everything you wear, you sleep, everything you touch came from someplace. A lot of it came from farms, whether it's the makeup and the creams you put on your face, a lot of those are agricultural products. Food we eat, so much of it is land-based, and we do need, well, it is forgiving. There are stewardship principles that need to apply. So I would say have that mindset shift today to make sure that you're making choices, voting like we're talking about, in a way that is supporting life for communities, life for schools, ultimately life for you. And so I think it's that mindset shift and really looking at the value of what you're doing and living into that.
So today, when I leave here, the one thing I'm going to do is buy organic food, or how am I going to
That's a good
actually
place to start.
implement this?
Have organic coffee first.
Well, I only buy
Yes. And then if you are sleeping on organic sheets, you know, get on your sheets and your towels and your internets and then just continue to move along the continuum.
Okay, how do you feel about bamboo?
I think bamboo is an interesting crop that can be grown in a responsible manner. When you talk about, there's a lot of experts in here about viscose. And so yes, there's viscose from trees, there's viscose from bamboo, there's viscose from wheat chaff, there's viscose from cuttings and waste and trash. So I think it's important to know your source. And if it's bamboo, it can be grown responsibly. It can also be grown irresponsibly. So it goes back to knowing where it's coming from, because I know there's certified organic bamboo fields and responsibly grown regenerative, where it's part of their rotation. So bamboo can be responsible, just like cotton can be. Wool and lignite can be responsible, but you need to check your supply network and see what kind. It's not just the fiber; it's how and who are growing it and how it's being
Okay, so with this new piece of information that I'm going to pay a lot of attention to, I subscribe to something called Cloud Paper, which is a company that does you can subscribe and it'll do it on a basis that you determine every month or every 2 months. And it supplies you with toilet paper, a facial tissue, and paper towels. So I'm going to check, and because
Double
I
check.
subscribe to them,
Yes,
I'm going to check that they are doing it
What is your
properly.
production practices on
Exactly.
the land, your
I'm gonna do
land-based
that.
practices? Yep. Ask questions. Be curious.
Exactly. So, speaking of questions, who has a question? Oh, yes.
Hi, my name is Emma. I'm the founder and designer of Milk, which is a brand that launched in 2021. I have to say it's incredibly encouraging and inspiring to hear you talk about changing from a price paradigm into a value paradigm, because that's an area that I often struggle with as an emerging brand. So my question was, do you have recommendations, I guess this can be for everyone, for new businesses where cost is often a barrier of entry for an emerging label in regards to MOQs or even markups, and how do we break into that market? I think a lot of the times, generations older than I say like it's our responsibility to create change, but as I'm trying to create change, it's been very difficult to break into the market while being sustainable. So I'm wondering if you have advice for kind of newer business.
Wendy, that's kind of you, no?
Yeah, that is a very interesting and challenging question. Yeah. I think it comes back, I think, to really understanding maybe developing some relationships with people, seeing if there's any way that you can find a solution to create that fabric, like whatever it is that you're trying to buy. And they're probably saying you can't, right? Because it's either too expensive or you don't have a large enough quantity. Is that? I want a little more information. Sorry.
So for me specifically, when I first started, I was like, I am only going to be using like all natural, eco-certified materials. I want to use hemp, linen, and sourcing like from very like certified companies. But as I was building, I was realizing that like my price points just aren't approachable or attainable. Like selling a t-shirt for $500 when it's made of hemp from an unknown brand is not possible for a business. So I think for me, like as I've learned about sustainability, I have been able to be flexible with what I'm doing and leaning more into dead stocks as I'm not producing quantities that are making new materials. But I think it comes into a lot of reaching out for more like wholesale partners and retail than just selling, where I'm often approached with, well, we would buy it if you made it cheaper. So, but I can't make it cheaper unless I have higher orders of the products.
You're caught in between.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Catch 22.
Well, and I would add to this that I think there's opportunities for you to really think about if you have a more complex design, you could put preferred material in a more complex design, a t-shirt or a set of sheets, the primary cost in that product is going to be the material. Where if you go into a more complex design with buttons and this and that, or like a work jacket, denim kind of jacket thing, you can absorb the cost of the material across the more complex garment structure. The other thing is I've seen several brands be successful in not creating a new eco product, like an eco jean or whatever, a fashion denim brand, but organic and more regenerative cotton into their best-selling product because they're already getting the price points because it's their highest volume yarn, their highest fiber, and your best jean, the fit's right, everything's right, it's their best-selling product. So I think really taking a look at the products that you're putting your preferred fibers into, you may want to look at blending strategies. So there's different ways to kind of do incremental steps into that, but I think a more, t-shirts are going to be hard, quite frankly, So I think going into a more complex pattern design structure, we've seen a lot of brands have success in placing preferred fibers into, be really deliberate about where you're placing product.
And I'm just wondering also with, the people that you're talking to, I wonder if there is a broader audience that you're going to in terms of mill base or factory fabric base that might be able to accommodate what it is that you're looking for, along with what Lorraine is saying. I think that there are ways to kind of cut at this. It takes a little bit. I have a few more questions I'd love to ask you.
As a domestic manufacturer, our factory is on 35th Street between 7 and 8. To us, according to what you said, it is a disaster, right? Because we cannot be too low in our CMT. However, we can go down with our MOQ. My part. If you're charging them $10 a yard, then you might need to produce it in Pakistan or Bangladesh, right? But the quantity is very big. I'm talking about MOQ, and you're not supporting your fellow citizen or people in the United States. So I'm not sure you're farming in the United States, I mean for the mills that you're talking about.
We do all the above. Yeah, I farm in Texas, and cotton is spun and woven here in the United States.
So
Sewn in LA, different places.
I
Yeah,
see. I hope you will support the New York community in this industry.
absolutely.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Cara. I run a small-scale natural dye studio here in New York, and I also do creative direction for the U.S.'s largest botanical dye retailer. And I'm so inspired by everything that you are all talking about, and anyone who's dabbled in natural dyes understands that it's the myth of Sisyphus, right? It's like you're pushing the boulder up a hill and hoping it doesn't go back down. But, I think like for me and what I found like, being in the industry for like close to 10 years now is that scale is a really hard issue to compete with, right? It's like when you work with a company like Theory, natural dyes would almost be a joke because we couldn't produce the amount of, even a market-sized, like a marketing plan order, right? So how do you, I just have to say, like, hearing you can't grow it on me is one of my favorite things I've heard today. And like, I also talk to farms about growing natural dyes for us and what that looks like. But for them, it's still, the price point doesn't make sense for the labor at the moment. But you should all try natural dyes, I should just say that. But I think, for me, how do you kind of promote biodiversity and diversity in general when scale is an issue for a large retailer, right? It's like the homogenized order. How do you do like multi-local drops? Like what does that look like for the future of sustainability with not necessarily having, I don't know. I guess I'm
So,
curious
are you're talking about just primarily dye, the natural dyes or something? Is that what you're?
Not necessarily dyes per se, but just kind of like scale in general. How does
So, I mean, I could, part of what we've recently been doing is really having an understanding, as I said earlier, about understanding who's in your supply chain.
Yes.
Okay, so let's say we're going to a farm, which we most recently just did in Australia, and that particular farm is very focused on biodiversity, and certain sections of land is literally letting it come back from it to its natural state, so that they can in fact have a broader and really make a difference in terms of what they're doing with their 26,000 acres. I think it's around 26,000 acres. And what's interesting is it's not diminishing the number of sheep that they're working with anyway. It's not at all. It's actually enhancing. And they're very focused on making sure that they have, sections of the land, a lot of large sections of the land that bring back the natural trees that were there before. And it's all starting to come back. So so it's like having an understanding of who's in your supply chain, then you can really know what they're doing from a biodiversity perspective. You can help them, shift if they want to. There's many ways to go about doing this. That is really, I think, open to all of us right now. So it's happening on a scalable level, is what I'm saying.
The other thing I would add is that you can't do it by yourself. You have to replicate. So you either get bigger in creating other farmers in your network and other people in your network to get to that critical mass, or again, replicate, find that other, build that marketplace. But I would also encourage you to find a market partner, a good brand that's willing to start with a limited collection of this or a limited collection of that, that has that mindset to say, yes, we support this, we're going to help this piece grow. I can tell you a very successful story about a makeup company that's using organically grown calendula. It's just really interesting in how some of those different medicinal and herbal different dyes, you can get to that critical mass because you've got 10 farmers down the road. You create a cooperative, you create that, it's a network, and it may be a business network, but you've got to find that market partner that's willing to kind of be a part of that long-term strategy. Yes?
Hi, I want to echo Carla's sentiment that quote that you said that you can't grow on a media is really moving. I have a question for you, Ray. I work a lot in brand partnerships, so how do we see what sustainability levers can we pull within a global brand or a smaller company, and how do we get buy-in from the C-suites and from their audience of consumers and fans to allocate funding from this linear economy and these large ecosystems into this more sustainable network that needs to be built out and needs the economic shift in order to actually come to actuality. So I align with you.
You got to do the right dog and pony show.
I hope razzle dazzle.
Yeah, razzle dazzle.
And I know a lot of my colleagues in the room share the same sort of mission and sentiment. I'm curious if you have any insights or even an anecdote or any advice on how to get that buy-in, that quote that you gave was so compelling. I'm curious if you could expand on that anymore.
I think the heart of it still is that collaboration piece. Find your kindred spirits. You have to do it in that pre-competitive space, like who's working on, linen. Everybody get together. There's different forums, already within the existing, groups that are here today. It's like find those kindred spirits and say, here's something we'd like to tackle together. We'd like to work on together. That way, you're getting the insight, the experience. You're not having to recreate that wheel just within your own team or your own company. And find those pre-collaborative spaces of like, how do we really move wool along, or how do we move this recycled or this collection piece? But it's the same thing of creating that network. And then you start putting the numbers together. Maybe, especially with more legislation coming out, which is kind of the double-edged sword, preferred fibers and dyes and everything else that's going on, whether it's social justice issues, biodiversity, those things you're going to have to report to those. So you're going to have more opportunities now to say, here's how we meet our ESG. Here's how we meet this. Here's how we reduce greenhouse gases. There's data and information that gives you additional selling points, the razzle-dazzle piece, to say, this is a decision that we can make now to invest here, here, and here in incremental steps that delivers X, Y, and Z. And so ultimately for the C-suite, you've got to have the business case. And the business case with all the plus marks and check marks of here's the pluses it delivers. So this is a good decision for today. It's a good decision to create a stretch linen. It's a good decision to put it into a suit. It's a good decision that carries through to that consumer. But ultimately, brands are under more pressure than they've ever been, and it will continue to be so for the regulatory side of things. And that's going to, when we started the exchange years ago, it's like it was the feel-good thing to do. We didn't have documentation or Aunt Susie's dad to say, here's the proof. You know, we've got a lot of LCAs now that give us documentation and proof of beneficial impacts. So you've got more ammunition than you've ever had before.
The other point that I want to make also regarding all of this, it's really important for, for companies to start to incorporate sustainability as part of just what they do. And a good example is, in the fabric world, let's say. As somebody's, the product development and the design people and the fabric development people are really looking at fabrics, it becomes just part of what they look at. This is the fabric, this is the weight, this is the price, this is the content. What are the sustainability attributes? And it's kind of becomes just part of what they do. And it's not just in fabric development or design development, but in marketing, in merchandising, in finance, in logistics. It's just part of your, creating of whatever it is you're creating regarding a company. And that's a big shift that's starting to happen in a lot of brands. And obviously, we have to do it for legislation is coming down the pike. We have to do it because it's also the values of who we are. I mean, especially even in theory. It's been a very important part to us in terms of long durability on clothing. We really believe in the garments we make. So it really has to be a part of what we put into every aspect of every department. And so it's, again, a mind shift change also. So that's really another important thing.
And we have to pretend from the new implementation that will arrive, like digital passport or, I don't know, the way to measure the sustainability has to be set in the right way. That's very important because otherwise the real greenwashing comes out. And we have to give all the possibility to the final consumer to do the right choice. And has to measure. When you buy a wash dish, or I don't know, there is a class in red. But in fabrics, in fiber, it's totally different because every single fiber has its own specific. So it's very different. Everybody are talking about emotional durability. What do you mean emotional durability? Because how can you measure the emotional durability? Maybe if you give instruction, if you give education to the final consumer, he can understand by himself what he is buying at the moment. If it's good for the environment, for the social impact, the rest of the world.
I mean, there's a word that I've always thought was not being applied to the industry, which was foresight. I mean, what are the big companies thinking? I mean, it is inevitable. We know what is going to happen. There is going to be a situation with water. There's going to be a situation with waste. I mean, for these large companies not to have any foresight is, to me, baffling. And here is where foresight is really being implemented. So kudos, really, because, it's our future. It's the future of our children. It's the future. There is an amazing documentary that I just wanted to tell you that I saw the second episode the other day, which is called, PBS is running it, and it's called The History of the Future, which I think is a fabulous title. And it really does point out certain companies that are making huge inroads in terms of foresight. I mean, it's worth the taking a look at it, and it should be in every single school, so that people really can learn. It's about education.
Ultimately, education is the key.
Yep.
I think you had a question.
Sorry. So kind of, it's great that last question just brought up legislation because it wasn't talked about, that I asked about it. So I know that a lot of legislation that's coming up that's being, that's sort of being thrown around, it does have, it sets practices for brands to, track everything. It does kind of leave the onus on all the suppliers. And I know that a lot of brands that I've spoken with about this, just doing my own research on upcoming legislation, is that, they don't have, mills don't necessarily work with just one brand. And factories don't make garments for just one brand. So it's kind of like, brands are kind of washing their hands saying that they don't really have to pay for all of the upcoming things that are gonna have to happen? How do you, I'm not a supplier, but as a supplier, how do you get the brands to help so like you don't have, as you're saying earlier, like, you know, all this poverty that happens down the line by saying like, oh, well, you're making things cheaper, you're just adding extra cost to suppliers. How do you change that? I guess, if that makes any sense, I don't know.
So you're asking them the
I
question
don't really
of
know.
how
Whoever wants to
Well,
answer.
how does anybody?
Like or I guess,
We're
how.
working with a number of our suppliers to actually have an understanding of what, let's say, their energy uses are. We could probably start there, but you know, our mills and also our factories. And we're about ready to start looking at, well, how can we work with them to reduce? So it becomes a conversation, and I don't think we're just sitting there saying, oh, you know, go figure it out. We're going to sit there and talk to them about it. Now, yeah, but there are many other suppliers probably talking to the same company, so that we haven't reached that point yet. But it's a conversation, and we've actually asked our partners here to kind of give us, as I said, energy information regarding all the different people that they work with for our particular product. What?
If you want to stay in the market now, you have to start these roads with that. And we went through our supply chain because if you know, our district is made from several companies. They work together along the chain of production. They do one step only of the chain of production. So very, very few small companies, and we have to go inside and we teach, we don't audit them to try to teach them how it will be the new regulation and how we have to start to work. I think there will be transparency around the chain. That's very important because the digitalization and all the investment in terms of platform where you can share information, maybe the blockchain could help. We are planning in Prato to do a digital twin of the district to share information in real time, because in the next future we will be obliged to measure the LCA of every single fabric we sell. So you need transparency, you need the collaboration from the supply chain, and our company, like the brands too, has to go through the supply chain, starting from, because they are ahead, and start back to teach them how we have to do. Otherwise, it's no possibility.
No, but there is also something else that we found at the beginning when we start to talk about sustainability. This is going back to 2016. We signed a protocol with Greenpeace to eliminate 11 family of chemicals that were dangerous for the water process of the textile industry. Going through, we had to go through not only us, because we have to be involved all the supply chain to achieve results like this. It means that in a few years we end up eliminating 10 out of 11 of this family, changing the product we were used to make the fabrics with. So we have to teach also all the supply chain to work on the same object. So the object is the same for everybody, and everybody has to go his own part, small part, bigger part, to achieve what we are, our goals, what we have to achieve. This is a process that it doesn't happen from a day to another, that's for sure. But once that you started, also the people involved, they start to think with a different mentality of what it was before. Of course, we have a little bit of resistance because all of this has a cost. And the small company, part of the supply chain, they have difficulties to support these costs. We have to have them. So we have to be always close together, make maybe some platform that will help everybody who is involved in the supply chain to use it for the single part of the business they do, but to do it with a proper way, with a proper system. And this, of course, we have been doing it in 6 years to eliminate these 10 products out of the elaboration of the fabrics. We've taken up a little while, but the important is to teach these people, because the people, we have, I don't know about this part of the discussion, but I think yes. We have our goal. Our goal is to permit to the consumer to make a responsible buy. It means that I have to supply as many information as possible throughout all the supply chain, because who has to buy has to make a responsible buy, being aware of everything is going on in that particular garment. This is what we want to do, because going toward this way, we have to leave a better world to the generation that will come after us. Because this is a very simple word, but it's very complicated to achieve this result. But we have to move towards to make it happen. So that's why we work with. When we have the audit, then we do the audit to our supply chain as well. Sometimes we found a lot of resistance, but step by step we are getting there. I mean,
Yeah, this is
nothing
really
happens
important.
from the day to another one. I mean, it takes a little while, but it's important to have very clear where we want to go.
And also, I mean, it just, you know, brands are, at least we are partnering with our suppliers, you know, both the factories and all the fabric mills, to try and figure out how we can, you know, we've narrowed down our supply chain such that we know who our partners are and we work with them. And they've been long-standing, as, you know, the Marinis have for a long time. It's like, so there's, when I say partnership, it means that they're not in it alone.
Well, the
And
other,
specifically on legislation, I think there is no legislation now. There is a bill that is drafted for New York State. But the challenge with the legislation is a lot of it has come from, this is a good thing, but also a challenge has come from the activist environmental voice, and hasn't really involved industry people in drafting it to address those specific kind of nuances that don't make sense. And so it's really imperative for the industry to be part of drafting
Amen.
legislation versus reacting to legislation.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think that might address some of the, like, well, how does it work when there's multiple suppliers or different supply chains, and we don't know. So I think that is.
that's a big thing. The good news is that there's a number of multi-stakeholder initiatives, whether it's ZDHC or it's OpenText or it's, you know, textile exchange standards. A lot of them right now are voluntary standards, but you've got catalyst companies that are willing to take the step, make the investments, just show the way. So that's the beautiful thing, is that there's a lot of, you know, tip of the spear kind of companies that are making those changes and investing in those things and creating the network to make it all happen. So the good news is that there is voluntary standards out there that have given us the direction of travel, and we're on that direction of travel, and there's great catalyst companies that are being the leaders and the pioneers of making it happen.
We are sort of at the end of our
Fine?
time.
Sure we are.
But I just wanted to wrap it up by saying it's very interesting to have all of you get down to the nitty-gritty, because that's what it comes down to in terms of a business profile. But what the panel has really expressed, I think, is the emotional connection also to this. I mean, all of us as advocates, we have an emotional connection to it, but you have to go right back to the beginning.
Yes.
You have to go back to the earth. You have to go back to the people who are taking care of the earth and getting us dressed in the morning. Absolutely. Essentially, that's it. So I'd like to thank you, Lorraine, and Francesco, and Ricardo, and especially Wendy for
Yes.
bringing me here.
Here's Stephen.
also like to thank the panelists and especially Theory for hosting us this morning. This is the first of many conversations we have planned with Theory, including another panel, but there's also an opportunity to have one-on-one dialogue with Wendy and her colleagues at Theory, so you can ask very specific questions. Being Earth Month, we are so committed at CFDA. Sasha and Sarah and the whole team have worked really hard. There's a bunch of other things we're doing, so I encourage you to check out cfda.com and follow our Friday newsletter and sign up for it. And thanks for all being here on this beautiful spring day. Bye.